Welcome to Please Make This Movie, a podcast where we take a beloved movie or TV series and come up with a prequel or sequel. I'm Zach,
I'm Storm.
And I'm Nick.
and this week we're doing Total Recall. Where would you guys put this as far as like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in like his rankings?
Maybe number one. Maybe
Yeah.
number one.
I agree. I think this is like definitely top three. Predator for me is maybe a step above, but yeah, this is a good movie.
I really like Terminator, the franchise and the character, but I think is in terms of I don't know, there's something about this movie that I really like rewatching. It's a lot of fun every time.
I also feel like Arnold brings something to this one that maybe somebody else wouldn't have. Where like Terminator, maybe somebody else could have done that.
It's almost as if you have someone who isn't really great at acting, who's just like sort of a blank slate, who has forgotten everything about who they are. And I don't know, it kind of melds well. I very much like this movie because I am a big fan of, I don't know, Paul Verhoeven has done Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and RoboCops, and all these films are movies I liked watching as kids, as like action movies, and in their own individual way, I have enjoyed differently as an adult. And I don't know, I just think all three of them are fucking awesome.
And all three of them to keep that kind of line together. All three of them have like bad practical effects, but they're almost charming in a way.
Oh yeah.
Of like it's like what makes this movie is like these terrible, like clearly faces of Arnold that they're not him, and like it's obvious. It's like that's weird. Could you guys not figure out a way to put his head inside this woman's head?
Oh, I love it. I love those practical effects. Nick, I like that you mentioned that you watched all those movies as a kid, because they are hard R movies, but they play out like cartoons. All three of those movies, I watched those as a kid as well, and they feel like children's movies in a way. The kind of sense of playfulness and the pacing and the jokes, and like the practical effects with the Arnold head. You're exactly right, Zach. That they probably could have done that in a more realistic way, but the tone of the movie, it being cartoonish and way over the top, it elevates it.
Yeah, they like, I know, I've watched these movies before, like on like weird HBO DirecTV channels before I ever saw like Quentin Tarantino, and I think it introduced me to enjoying like violence in like a pleasurable way, like in a sort of comical way. I mean, you can think of, Get Ready for a Surprise and the head exploding, like that's super funny. There's all these like one-liners Arnold has. You can even go to RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven's other movies, like, there's that awesome scene where like Ed 209 just shoots the dude in the conference meeting for like a minute.
Yeah.
And it's super gory. And I mean, I don't want to talk too much crap about the special effects because I love them. And some of them are really bad. Like the worst ones in this movie are like the weird still like headshots where it's clearly not them.
Yeah.
Like where it's like really shiny and plastic, and like maybe like
the nose one where he pulls the like tracker out of his nose it didn't like take me out of the movie, but it was like, this has not aged well at all.
It makes it enjoyable though. Like the best ones are when they're out in Mars and their heads are exploding. Like I think those look great.
Like that is, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but that is one of the things that like I put on the touchstones of like, if this movie were to get remade, I think like the campy special effects need to carry over, because if this was a like highly stylized, high budget movie with like good CGI, I don't think it would be near as good.
Yeah. Okay. So I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure that's what the Colin Farrell remake was.
That would be my guess.
More streamlined, stylized, realistic version, and it looked boring, to be honest. I assumed it was that. I didn't see it, but I absolutely agree. Yeah, the style, the campiness, is very important to making this movie the way it works and feels.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was reading some stuff about it. Apparently, it had like a $60 million budget, which was a crazy amount for that time.
Okay,
and it looks like it's got kind of a shitty budget. I mean, like, I think they just do a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, all those sets, like, I don't know, a lot of it was pretty cool. Yeah. Like, they had to make a lot of stuff for it. Don't get me wrong.
There's a ton of makeup work. Like there's full characters that exist only in like their makeup design. There's a ton of just like big set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like everything seems like it's there. It doesn't look like anything was done like on a sound stage like green screen type thing. It's like they built these giant things and then actually filmed the scene on them.
Also, to add another reason why I really like this movie, this is one of the special connections to Total Recall that I have, is that Philip K. Dick is one of my favorite sci-fi writers, and the story is based off of what did I had it up? I've never actually read it, but it's what's the story called? We Can Remember It for You Wholesale, by Philip K. Dick, and one of Philip K. Dick's themes in like almost all of his books is like questioning reality. And the movie doesn't play up into it a lot, but as my pitch kind of goes, I kind of focus on that because like what is real and what is not real. I just think it's an awesome theme.
Mine
And
does. Mine does too. I think they underuse that, and I think maybe that's because of the time period it was in. Because like, I don't think a super hard sci-fi movie that's questioning like, is this the real timeline or is this in his head, would have been good for a large audience. And I think now, maybe not. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my own ass. But I feel like moviegoers now are a little bit more savvy and so could handle that like a little bit more um, harder to comprehend concept.
I think it's a sign that the movie has created a good sci-fi universe that you guys are kind of inspired to expand elements of it thematically and even. I mean, there's a lot you could do like technology wise with focusing in like Recall. I don't know it as much as it is a central focus of the film. There's so many more crazy things you can do with being able to program people's minds and send them on virtual things like yeah, it absolutely the idea of questioning reality is not focused on in the movie, but you as the viewer create things.
I also think it's very confusing that they call it recall because like over the course of the movie he recalls his actual memories, but then they can recall somebody and give them false memories. And then like when I was writing my pitch, I started writing recall with a K when it wasn't real.
Okay.
Just because it was hard to track back and forth. And that could be why it didn't kind of play up that switching back and forth between like the reality and not, because it'd be hard to write and keep track of yourself.
Yeah, so Total Recall, the concept as defined in the movie, is it's that like it's when you have been reprogrammed, but now you're you're fully remembering your original state of mind. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
I don't know if they ever mention it
I don't
in
know.
the movie
There's a company
specifically.
named Recall, but that's Recall with the K.
Yeah, Michael
And then
Ironside says
and then
it.
they talk about it,
Yeah,
but I
he's
don't know if it definitely is not spelled out
yeah, he just
clear
says a
enough that
vague
yeah.
line. It's like in an hour he'll have achieved total recall. It's like, whoa, what?
Well, yeah, I think him. So when did they say that line again?
It's right after he's watched the video. Quaid has watched the Hauser video and he's taken the tracker out of his nose and he's starting to remember some things. And they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, right now he doesn't know who he is, but in an hour he'll have achieved total recall.
yeah, he's probably just going to revert back and like because their whole goal was to try to hide it for whatever reason and keep him in his nice little pretend life, and he's going to have
And
complete and
what
total
so
clarity.
let's talk about that. Why? Why
Why?
did they
Yeah,
why did they the only reason that the only motive for keeping him alive is that Cohagen is like his friend
Yeah.
and didn't want to kill him. But there's no reason. There is no logical reason for why they're like, we're gonna keep him alive and we're just gonna send him to Earth and we're gonna spend all these resources tracking him. It just seems like a wasted effort.
So
I
that he would come back and lead the Martian Revolution straight to them so they could wipe them out.
Was that actually the reason though?
yeah, because at the end, like they realize that him and Hauser, not Quaid, but Hauser, the original agency, Arnold Schwarzenegger, they agreed to do that so he could, I don't know, it was like this elaborate scheme in him being able to trick the rebellion into
Yeah.
collapsing. Like that's kind of it's
I
not
thought
super
that was
strong.
just a fake video. I did not get that that was like actually the plan. I thought that that was like a doctored video to show him that that it wasn't like I don't know.
With the
It also
video at the
felt really
end?
no. Yeah. The one where Hauser says like, "You did it, buddy."
Yeah.
Like we tricked him, and I'm like, "This is fake. This isn't real. Like this is definitely not what they wanted to have it because that's a super complicated plot." Um and why did they have to chase him all the way through Earth? Like a lot of people died in the process when they could have just
Yeah.
like let him go to Mars and be like, "Oh shoot, he beat us."
Yeah.
And then picked it up there. They're full on firing guns in like crowded airports.
Yeah, all so this convolution, I guess how ridiculous and over the top that is exactly why I love this movie because that is fucking ridiculous. But
No,
that
it
is
makes no
I
sense.
interpreted it as that is exactly what they intended to do.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, like the plot isn't what matters about this movie.
No,
It's just like a
100%,
fun
100% not.
action movie. It's not
Oh
as
yeah,
it doesn't have like it has like some basic anti-corporation themes. It has some basic anti-corporation themes, but like it's not like as I don't know satirical as maybe like
Yeah,
RoboCop or Starship
it
Troopers
is
is.
it is
hmm
not necessarily making a big commentary. It is definitely following like the rule of cool, and it's like we could do this and it'd be good for our plot, or he could just rip this guy's arms off and that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. This movie's a whole lot of fun.
Did
Uh,
you guys catch? Did you guys know that Dean Norris is in this movie?
Oh
yeah,
yeah, with the vagina head.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually wrote guy whose face looks like a weird vagina.
Not
But yeah,
the
I
best
I
makeup.
I identified him by voice, and I was like, wait a minute, because we had been talking about Hank from Breaking Bad, and I was like, that voice is familiar. I think that's, and then I looked it up, and yep, sure was.
Yeah,
Um,
he's also in Starship Troopers.
yeah, he is.
Nice.
And I was kind of surprised once I figured out it was him that he didn't have. I I thought his role was much bigger. Like I thought he was like a second in command or something. But he is in the movie and then just like is slowly just dying from not getting oxygen. Like
I
he
mean,
has a super small part. I'm not saying that he was a big movie star and should have been featured more, but like they definitely make a point to show this guy and have him be unique.
yeah, he's like some rebel dude that works at the bar. He's not even high up. Oh man, I'm already forgetting who's the baby monster. Kate Katu?
Kuatu, Kuatu.
Kuatu.
Kuatu. Yeah.
Yeah, Kuatu's fucking nuts. That I mean, that shit makes
No,
the
that's
movie
so
for me.
weird. It's
Oh
so
yeah,
weird. Like the voice makes no sense. I don't understand it at all. Like it so does nobody know about Kuatu or do they like all kind of know because he's like, "Oh, he's going to be here. He's on his way. He's going to be here." And so like do other people think like Kuatu's taken some other entrance into the room or that was super confusing to me because there's the guy who's like just seems like a right hand man, but he is actually like the host of Kuatu or something.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Although there's so many cool pieces in this that I mean, they should remake this would be a great series. Like if the right people did it, you could spread this out super far into like multiple seasons and like I don't know, flesh out this weird rebellion underworld and
Well, and
you
yeah,
know this
it's
whole total recall organization and
it almost reminds me of The Expanse. Not at all in terms of story or quality or anything, but like the levels of society that it could depict. Because there's like this underbelly, then there's just like the normal working class, and then there's this upper class. Like there's all these different levels of people that it could kind of pop in and out of their stories, and they obviously intertwine.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Expanse, but I definitely agree that there's a lot of material going on here and a lot of interesting angles that could definitely be fleshed out further. And that's why it's a fun one to write a pitch for, and to think even things happening before the timeline of the movie or way after, or even immediately after. It's just kind of just good, fun sci-fi all around. I don't know. I kind of love this movie.
It's a really fun movie. It is a good like just sit there, have some popcorn, and enjoy, and like don't think too much about it.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, and this movie I there's a lot of sound clips from it that I've heard sampled in songs. Like, and I can't even point to the song specifically, but I'm like, man, I've definitely heard that phrase before. It's like, oh, like I mentioned earlier, get ready for a surprise. I feel like that's in
Uh-huh.
some metal song I've heard back in high school. Like, I don't know, it's had an impact, that's for sure. Um,
Certainly.
you were talking about Expanse, not to get on that, but I've actually been reading the books that
Mhm.
show's based off of, and I'm enjoying those much more than the actual show, and I enjoy the show. So
So, quick preview to maybe somewhere down the line, if Storm, you ever watch The Expanse. The reason I watched the show was because Game of Thrones was ending, and I was listening to a Game of Thrones podcast, and they're like, if you're really looking for something to get into after Game of Thrones that has a similar feel, The Expanse is Game of Thrones in space, basically. And I don't know that that metaphor necessarily holds true, but it is good. It's similar to where it's like kind of dense, so you can't necessarily binge a whole bunch of it at once. Um, but yeah, there's my little plug for it.
Right on. Not to plug it even further, but I'm curious now, what platform is it on?
Amazon Prime. It was a
hmm
Nice.
sci-fi original show, and then it was canceled, I believe.
yeah, and then
Okay.
And
Amazon
then
Prime bought
Amazon
it.
picked it up for the last two. So there were 2 seasons on Sci-Fi. Now there are 2 seasons on Amazon.
Nice. Well, I'm curious. I definitely will check that out.
So let's like flawlessly segue into um, what do you think are the hallmarks of this movie? We've talked about it a little bit. The practical effects. That's not necessarily something we can um, carry over in our podcast. I just think the feel of it. It's got a very '90s feel. Even like the green coat that Quaid wears the entire movie. Like I feel like everybody's dad had that coat in some color.
Yeah, you'd picture a dude golfing,
Yeah.
like, but it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, so it looked badass. Uh, yeah, I mean, action. You just got to have a lot of dumb action. If there's not a lot, if it's not mostly based around action scenes, like I
Well,
don't
and
know,
like
like
gratuitous action, like not even necessary to the plot, just like I'm going to choose to do this because it's cooler than if we did the logical thing.
yeah, and I stuck around the theme. I don't know if it necessarily has to be in there, but I stuck with the themes of like corporate greed and the man sucks. We kind of, I think, tried to put a modern twist on it. I don't know. I didn't put a whole lot of detail into. Well, I I didn't put a lot of detail into that part of my pitch, but
Yeah, I think like some of the themes that would carry over that kind of tie right into like corporate greed, classism or wealth inequality, the incoming or the impending war between the impoverished and the ruling class, which is it is like an underlying element that is I don't know. I definitely would have liked to have seen more of that, especially within the Martian colony in the original movie.
And then obviously the recall and like the almost the uncertainty of what is the truth and what is um, kind of put out there to be accepted as the truth.
Yeah, that definitely is a theme that could be brought more front and center, I guess. Definitely like mistaken identity rings true, but like the actual questioning of what is real and what is not. There's the one scene in the original movie where like a guy comes to Quaid's apartment. He's like, "Hey, like this is Inception. I'm a figment of your imagination. I'm going to
Because
guide you through this. You're freaking out," and he just kills him because obviously it's not real.
he starts to
Um,
sweat.
yeah, yeah. Well, for
Which, like,
me,
or was that part of his memory?
yeah,
well, I
Hmm.
like,
didn't, I didn't think that for a second. I guess is what I'm getting at. That as the viewer, it was more about like the mistaken identity thing from then on between Quaid and Hauser versus like, is this real or part of his recall experience or reality not being what it seems.
and then I think I don't know where you guys set yours in like the timeline, but there needs to be similar kind of characters. Some of them obviously can't make their way in, but as far as like the archetypes, the like almost cliches that they are, somebody needs to fill those roles.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like the obedient thug, kind of
Mhm.
that Michael Ironside was, or the absolute over the top cartoonish mustache twirling villain that is
Yeah,
Cohagen.
love it. Yeah, well, who's that dude's still alive? Um, Again, also in RoboCop, he play and dude, they just use all the same actors. Like these movies are all like interconnected. I think his name's like Ronnie Cox or Ron Cox, something Cox. And Michael Ironside's in Starship Troopers. Got what was his name?
Dean Norris.
Dean Norris. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's the actor's name.
So let's go ahead and get into pitches then.
Right on. Well, I'll go ahead and go first. My pitch, we were going with the sequel. I wanted to keep Arnold Schwarzenegger involved, so I figured it'd have to be set kind of in the distant future as opposed to the direct future. So it's 30 years later. Quaid and Melina are the leaders of the Martian colony. After the events of Total Recall, all of the rich um, colonists they fled to the Saturn colony that was mentioned by the guy at Recall in the first movie. After the terraforming of Mars and the kind of preceding revolution from the destruction of the dome. So currently, the offspring of the mutants from the original movie have developed kind of mild psychic and telekinetic abilities. They aren't so much physically mutated as they have these powers. And this is a pretty common thing amongst the new generation. So, all the young people within the Martian colony, they are blessed with special abilities. And in the beginning of the movie, we see an envoy, a ship from Earth. It arrives on Mars. There's an ambassador. He's come to negotiate a deal with Quaid to develop a new colony on Mars, one that wealthy people will be drawn to and they might find comfortable, as opposed to what the Martian colony has become in the past 30 years. And Quaid immediately turns him down. He's like, a couple dozen of you guys have come out here in the past 30 years, and I'll turn you down every time. Mars is not for sale. Mars is for the people. It's a free colony. The ambassador leaves and he's frustrated, but he kind of ominously tells Quaid that there's a new president on Earth and the platform he ran on was Return to Mars. So we're coming for you. And that evening, word reaches the Martian colony that on Saturn, their colony has suffered a terrible explosion, one that shattered their dome and exposed them to the poisonous environment. Many, maybe like 75% of the population was killed, and the remaining 25% are now homeless. And Mars is closer than Earth, so they're going to seek refuge on Mars. They're heading for them. Quaid, he suspects immediately that this is some sort of complicated plot developed by the new president of Earth to weaken the Martian position into accepting a new development deal. And then, to make things worse, there is an assassination attempt on Melina in the night, but it's thwarted by a young psychic boy named Siren. Siren kind of becomes Melina's right hand bodyguard figure. I think this is going to be kind of dumb, but I imagine him being played by Jaden Smith. Uh, he's kind of like robotic and maybe has like glowing white eyes. But it's kind of revealed that Melina always wanted to have a child with Quaid, but they can't for some reason. So throughout the movie, Siren becomes their kind of child figure. A refugee vessel arrives from Saturn, and many aboard are highborn members of the Saturn aristocracy. That's kind of what survived the explosion. The wealth distribution was already pretty ridiculous, and it was mostly upper class people on Saturn. And this is the richest of the rich that are seeking refuge on Mars. And they look down on Quaid and the Martians. So there's tension immediately, even though they're welcoming them in. Something is brewing. And aboard the ship is a man whose memory has seemingly been erased. He is a large, hulking, muscular figure, very similar to Quaid in the original movie. He can't remember anything. He says his name is Duke, and he remembers the explosion, but nothing before that. He seems friendly. He wants to help. He wants to be involved, but Quaid is, suspicious that it's some recall business like what happened to him originally. And so he kind of keeps this dude at an arm's length. Eventually, forces from Earth arrive, having been summoned by the snooty members of the Saturn aristocracy. And the president of Earth is among them. So this is kind of a reference to DC Comics, but I imagine he wears like a Lex Luthor battle suit, like a mechanized battle suit, and maybe even it is revealed that he's Richter, Michael Ironside from the original movie, having survived, and he's got like cannons for arms because his arms got ripped off. So in the end, they're it's like a big battle between the Earth forces and Quaid's Martian colony to force them to allow them to develop a new wealthy Martian colony. It's revealed that Duke was an undercover operative. It was exactly as Quaid suspected, um, planted to trigger the explosion on Saturn and set off this chain of events. Quaid is nearly killed in a fight with the robot president, but Duke saves him. And Quaid gives kind of a dumb speech where he tells Duke that he knows what it's like to be in this position, to be a bad guy who's been given a second chance, and he accepts him as he is. He offers him a chance to live on Mars and start over. They win the battle, but Quaid dies from his wounds. Melina takes over, and Duke and the psychic child Siren are kind of at her side, and we're in a similar position to where we were at the end of the first movie, but a new generation. And that's what I got.
I do have Michael Ironsides in mind still with
Okay.
robot arms. So
Nice.
I think that is definitely going to make its way into whatever we come up with.
Cool.
I also had him making some weird joke like, I've got to give you a hand or let me lend you a hand. And then he like fires some missile out of his hand or something
Oh
stupid.
my god. I
Oh
love
my
it.
god! In the game Metal Gear Solid, Snake has like a mechanical arm, and it's a rocket arm that shoots off of his arm and can punch people in the face, and it's super silly. And I imagine Michael Ironside's character having that.
Is he
Uh,
alive? Can we
Yeah,
recast him?
he's alive. He didn't look too good.
yeah,
Uh,
he looks very old. I did
Mm,
recast him, and I am excited. I'm excited for who I recast as Michael Ironside's character.
nice. I'm excited to hear that.
I do like the tension of between Earth and Mars, like not to really just
the
be all over the
Expanse.
expanse, but that is one of the conflicts is Mars and Earth do not get along.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Nice.
because yeah. Anyway, but I do like the tension there with like we're on our own and this is our planet, but like it's not anymore or whatever. So I think that is a good point to kind of build things on.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I also set mine 30 years in the future. Like, I guess because 30 years from when the movie was made, and I'm gonna have a. I like the idea of bringing in like some younger folks because when I think of like the action, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he's in good shape, but he's still pretty old, and you got to have someone else take those reins. So I'm
Yeah.
curious as who you casted as Duke, but we can wait for that.
Yeah, there's two people. Yeah, we'll talk about it in cast.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and get into mine because unlike both of yours, I did not set mine 30 years in the future. I set mine immediately at the end of the movie. It picks up right like in the last scene. Um, so my movie would pick up right with Quaid and Melina kind of on that, like watching the sunrise or whatever, looking out over the landscape after they have oxygenated the planet. And then it continues for like another beat or two. And then their eyes and tongues start to swell up, and we see the lack of oxygen kind of face come back. Um, and then they are snapped out of it kind of much like at the very beginning of the movie where he has the dream and is snapped out of it. He snapped out of it and he is there with his hands out, and Kuatu is like holding his hands, and we find out that Kuatu, through his like telekinesis or whatever it is that he has the ability to basically recall people, like the machines do. And so somebody in the back is like, "Oh, it didn't work this time. What was it?" And they're like, "Atmosphere. There's no atmosphere on Mars. Like we can have all the oxygen. It's not going to stay here." So basically, they're working through this plan, kind of beat by beat, and wherever it fails, um, they are because he can also like maybe predict the future a little bit. I don't really know what his powers were, but in mind he can kind of see the future also. Um, anyway, so he is working with Quaid beat by beat through this plan, and it's kind of like that movie Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where he's like just doing the plan, and like something goes wrong, and it's just like start over. So it cuts back and forth between what is not actually reality, what is just this like vision that Quaid is having because of Kuatu, and the reality of them trying to like get this plan to make it 100% it's going to work. So we see a lot of things going wrong. Like the big one is they're trying to fix Kuatu dying and it never works. And then finally, at some point, it's going to show like he survives, but then somehow we would actually see that he made him see that he survived when in reality, Kuatu knows like he has to sacrifice himself for this whole plan to work. Um, Ultimately, they get it. Uh, the whole plan goes off. There's an atmosphere now, like no problems. And the last shot is them kind of snapping back to the real time and then like gearing up to go actually do everything that happened in the first movie in real life. So all of this was actually just one big long vision, um, that now is this plan that they are 100% sure if they hit the right beats will work perfectly.
All right. Would you put in the ending of the first movie in this sequel?
So, what do you mean the ending of the first movie? Because it
Well,
ends with them. It ends with them on the planet with the oxygen, right?
correct.
Yeah. So my built-in kind of no, that didn't work is there's no atmosphere on Mars, so the oxygen just like dissipates and like it's not sustaining enough,
Okay.
basically. So that's kind of what I had is they're going to like that's that plan went off pretty much without a hitch, except the problem of like the oxygen doesn't stay. It worked for this big wave when they first go down into the glacier or whatever, but it's not going to be sustainable that way because there's no atmosphere to hold the oxygen on Mars. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate or not. It just seemed like something I could throw at there.
Well, it seems pretty ridiculous that just in like 10 seconds the whole planet would have breathable atmosphere and blue skies, but they
Yeah.
put it in the first movie anyway, so I don't think it
Yeah. So I'm
matters.
gonna undo it in like 10 more minutes.
We had some technical difficulties for anyone listening in. We'll edit it in, but we're starting right here. We lost connection to each other, and
Yeah,
we
I just assumed you hated what I what I pitched and we're
no,
just
no.
keeping silent.
Yeah, I do want to just so wherever I jump back in, if I didn't comment on Zach's pitch, I love the idea of Quaid holding Quatu's hand and there being that recall moment, the Groundhog's Day element where he can keep going back to that moment where he held his hand. Um, I don't know where we're going with the three pitches or putting them together, but I like that a lot. I think that's very cool.
Okay, so then that brings us to Nick's pitch.
Alrighty, so my movie takes place in what I'm calling a recall corporate carrier vessel. So, in the total recall world, corporations, a lot of their main headquarters and buildings and laboratories work outside of Earth's atmosphere so they can avoid any laws and taxes. So, what the protagonist is going to be working on is like the main Total Recall or one of their like main like research vessels, and it's essentially just like a corporate ship, like a business building in space to avoid a lot of legalities. And it follows a protagonist whose name is Fritz. And it starts off, the entire movie's taking place on the ship, but it starts off on Earth. He's like an ex soldier from some sort of space war. We can just call it whatever we want. Some sort of intergalactic war. He's kind of grizzled and has been through some shit. And he's got a sister named Tully, who he's been trying to take care of. He's super broke. So is his sister. You know, health insurance really isn't a thing. It's not like Medicare for all in the future. It's either you have a company that pays for it or you're shit out of luck. And she has some sort of, I don't know, we're going to say some sort of debilitating disease where she just can't move and it's like slowly degenerating her body. Well, make up some sort of space name for it. I didn't really give a name for it. It's not super important, but he cares about his sister. It's the only person in his family that he has. So what he decides to do is he decides to join up with what's called in the future dedicated service. And what this is just like space indentured servitude, where you sign up for a certain amount of years. It's like picking a career, but having a contract set in stone, where they'll agree to take care of you and give you a certain amount of money, but you literally have to work with them and you're in debt to this company for like 30 years. So he pretty much signs off his life to work on the space station for the rest of his life to take care of his sister. And what he does is he takes up a job as like an orderly slash security guard. Like he's there to like, you know, help patients in this top secret little medical bay place for his boss, who kind of runs the whole research facility, Dr. Bruner. And he's on the ship, you know, he's kind of overworked. He's not super down with the job. It's kind of menial. He's kind of just like a grunt on the ship. Works kind of all the way on the back end. He you know, you see him kind of get annoyed with what are called like these team leads, these people who are not indentured service servants, who are not in dedicated service, but like, you know, have disposable income, can, you know, go to these nice vacation planets, go to Mars with, and, you know, vacation, do all this nice fun stuff. So he's a little pissed off of them. They kind of run the place. He guards a medical bay where there are a bunch of vegetative people connected to machines, what he assumes to be life support. And he checks up on them, monitors them, and makes sure their like feeding tubes are connected to them. They're all very frail and withered, and just kind of guards the place. And like it's super heavy security. Like people, only a few people are in and out of there. He's one of the few guards that is allowed to go in there, along with like Dr. Bruner and some other research folks. And so one night, a team lead named Chaz gets high off of a space drug I call Dusty's. So it's like I, I like to think of it as what are those masks you wear if you have like sleep apnea?
I think it's called sleep apnea
Yeah,
mask.
sleep apnea mask. So it's something like that, but it's like a little bit smaller, more contained. And so he's almost off. It's like a slightly hallucinogen slash like coke drug. He's like super intoxicated, and he's getting high and like trying to bang this like dedicated servant nurse. And you know, he's trying to bang her inside the medical bay. Like it's super inappropriate. They're both allowed to be there, but you know, he's a night guard and he's like, you know, trying to figure out how to deal with this dude who's technically a superior. Both of them are beyond communicating with when he catches them in there, and they like fall over and accidentally disconnect an older patient's lifeline, or what he thinks is a lifeline to a computer. He's super pissed. He kicks him out. He drags him. He's like, he's not even being nice anymore. He goes back and he's like super nervous. He's like, oh man, like this is my watch if this person dies. And he looks, and that person laying down is who we know as Douglas Quaid and or
Oh
um,
damn!
what's his name, Carl Hauser, however you want to call him. And he doesn't actually die, although like the system's reading that he's going to die. He like starts coming to life, and he goes, ugh, and he starts talking. He's like, where am I? Who are you? And he's like, what is this place? Are we still on Mars? And you put in whatever dialogue you like, and he goes, "What the hell? You're supposed to be like a complete vegetable." From what all Fritz knows, like they're not supposed to be conscious at all. He's like, "What? Whatever. Like, who are you? What do you like? You're not supposed to be talking." It's like my name is my name is Douglas Quaid. No, no, no. He doesn't say that. He says he's my name is Carl Hauser. Actually, this might be a little kink in my plot, so we're gonna put a point on this because I'm actually not sure which name he has to be. We'll go back to
Okay.
that.
That's what he says. He says both of them. He's like, my name is Douglas Quaid. No, wait. Carl Howe. I'm not. I don't
Actually,
know.
I think it has to be Douglas Quaid because at the end of the first movie, right,
Mhm.
he refers to himself as Quaid, not Hauser, even though
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
Even
technically
after he's been told that his name. Yes.
yeah. So I'll say Douglas Quaid. We'll go for that. And so he does a little bit of so he connects him back. He falls asleep, and you know other orderlies and Dr. Bruner and her like henchmen. Who I mean, I didn't really plan on it being anybody specific. I did plan on it being someone specifically. I mean, if we really want a Michael Ironside robot, we can do that. I had someone else in mind for like the henchman there. Um, So Fritz researches this name, whichever one is. We're going to go Douglas Quaid for now, and finds out that like, oh wait a minute, like this is a dude that went into like a schizoid embolism like way back in the day, and he starts to research and he's like, oh yeah, like it's like this. He went on this discontinued recall program, like about being a special agent, and this like really popular one back in the day where you play this guy named Carl Hauser, and it, like kind of plays into like you being Total Recall. It was like this weird inception of like a Total Recall that was super popular, but like it had to get discontinued because a lot of people went into schizoid embolisms. And just speaking outside of the plot, pretty much what happened is I'm basing the entire first movie that it was actually a fantasy, that the entire time Arnold Schwarzenegger was in a schizoid embolism and has just been replaying this pretty much movie that we see in his head over and over again, and has been in a vegetative state um, since they got since he's connected it right in the beginning of the first movie. So long story short, he kind of does a little bit more research, starts talking to Quaid, and they kind of develop this like repertoire where like he's trying to like learn more about like what's kind of going on here, while also doing some snooping around the ship and some research databases. He kind of finds out like, wait a minute, like they're they're actually like data mining. Like what happened is like a lot of people that back in the day had schizoid embolisms, and they would say that they actually died, but what they did was is in order to like use them and preserve them as like greedy corporations do, they're like, well, let's just kind of like plug them up to these like machines, and like similarly how like Facebook data mines all of our information, they're doing that, but they're literally doing that directly from the brain. Like they're doing like these total recall memories and scenarios, and like playing out all these weird scenarios and like recording stuff, and using that to sell to advertisers, and like getting all these like human data traits like super illegally and unethical, hence why they're in space, but they keep doing this, and they're doing this with a lot of people, and he finds out at this point like it's not just like these accidental schizoid embolisms people that they're taking in, like they're actually like taking people and kidnapping them, and just like connecting them up against their will. Some of them are, dedicated servants like himself who thought they'd be working, but they're actually just like connected up to these machines. And so he starts talking to Quaid, trying to convince him like like you're not the person you think you are. Like you're like 70 years old now. Like he looks at himself, he shows him a mirror, he's like freaking out, and like Quay's just trying to find out, like, holy shit, like, wait a minute, like, my wife is like possibly still alive. Like, I might have like a family still somewhere. Like, I don't know, he's kind of freaking out. And this is where I kind of didn't plan as in depth, but eventually they they agree. Quaid wants to find out who he is, and specifically, oh man, I should have looked this up. Who's his wife's name in the movie?
Lori.
Lori, yeah, I knew Sharon Stone played her.
Yeah.
So where Lori's at, contacting him and finding out like what actually happened in all these years with her, and trying to rekindle his love for her, making contact with her, while Fritz is the actual action star, kind of pushing him around this sort of like futuristic wheelchair and fighting through these layers of ships, kind of like Dread, like where they have like the henchmen going off and they kind of free some of these other people that are locked up, and they work their way down through the ship, fighting in all these wonky, crazy action scenes where eventually they threaten Fritz's sister in some sort of way. This is all stuff we can fill in if we decide to go with this plot. And they try to work their way to Dr. Bronner to kind of undo everything. Quaid's just trying to find out who he really is, where Lori's at, and get contact with her. And then Fritz is at odds with like his ethics and freeing these people versus like, hey, like I've got to take care of my sister. I think maybe at the end they can have a bribe like, hey, listen, we're not going to kill your sister. We're going to cure her disease. Like we have this top notch research. Like we're going to give her this like, you know, special drug that's going to keep her going. Like if you just, kind of give up Quaid and, go our separate ways. And there's some big battle scene, blah blah blah, they fucking blow up the ship, and in the end, you know how it goes. That's all stuff we can fill in if we decide to go with that. But that's what I got. That's the sort of
Hell
base.
yeah.
I don't know if you did it on purpose, but you have so many allusions to like other well-known sci-fi things. Because like when you were describing the people that are like um in stasis, like hooked up to these machines, the first thing I went to was Minority Report,
Oh
which is
yeah,
also a Philip K.
where
Dick
they predict yeah,
story.
where they
Yeah.
predict the future. Yeah.
Um, and then you got into talking about like the data mining of human beings, and that was reminded me of like the Matrix, where they're basically farming humans. They're not doing it for like data purposes; they're doing it more for like the energy. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
there's
Well,
all these things that could be set up to
yeah.
kind of reference other sci-fi
Well,
properties.
yeah. I also didn't mention like pretty much Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he's in a wheelchair, so he's like he's been not moving for 30 years, like he has no
Yeah.
muscle.
Mm,
But I want him eventually to get into a mech suit, kind of like in the first Alien movie, where he's like he
nice.
can kind of do some badass shit. Um, in reference to that, and then like I didn't plan all the individual fight scenes there, but the protagonist Fritz is like an ex-soldier, so he can do all this badass stuff, and you have the whoever the thug is. It really didn't really matter. Just put a generic thug, and they're fighting them, and they're the
Yeah.
corporate goons, man.
So all right. So Nick, I love your pitch. I love it. I think it's a very creative and it's like a worthy approach at a sequel coming at it with some twists and some new sci-fi elements pulling from other classic sources. And Zach, I love the element of your pitch with the Kuatu recall Groundhog's Day moment, and I think that they kind of perfectly blend into one another. Where Zach's your pitch with the Kuatu recall element and him having to repeat from that moment is the first act. It's the setup, and he's getting more and more confused. Like, what the hell's going on? Why do I keep ending up at this moment? We can't figure out how to play this out in the most perfect way. It's like that's the for eons in his brain. That's what he experienced, and then we kind of hard cut after 3 or 4 of these moments to Fritz getting the job to go and work at this building um, to take care of his sister, and the plot unfolds from there.
Yeah, I really like also Nick in your universe that there is it's the future, but also you don't get healthcare and people are still going to space to escape taxes. Like these things that should be very menial things are still like huge issues that haven't been solved.
Oh yeah. Well, the idea is like that. It's like even worse. Like
Yeah.
it wanted indentured servitude, which is like I don't know. Like the way I was thinking of it, it's like not too actually far off from like a 9 to 5. Like you know, I'm getting older. I'm like, well, like looks like I could be working at State Farm for 30 more years.
Yeah.
Like oh, like it's kind of like that, but more like set in stone and a little bit more barbaric. Um, I don't know. Is there any way we can put like any of your political stuff with like Earth and maybe I don't know if Mars how Mars would come into it, but add that in
So it could be I
with
don't know.
storms.
Like
Yeah,
I don't know if we could do like so we start with the Quaid stuff that is from Total Recall, like my part, and then we just hard cut. Like this is repeated a couple times in like a couple different ways, and then we hard cut to Fritz, and he is like a soldier for like another uh, planet, and maybe that's where like I don't know. I don't know if he could be the tie-in to the other planet, and then get the there's just this kind of intergalactic tension.
I think maybe
Um,
an interesting angle would be if it's just kind of shown through the cultural context, like maybe there's newspaper clippings or ads that talk
mhm.
about. I like the idea of the Saturn colony because that's in Total Recall. The guy at Recall keeps telling him like, "You want to go to Saturn. You don't want to go to Mars. You want to go to Saturn." And I like the idea of there being some significance in that. So if it's like what we're getting in the media is like people are returning from the Saturn colony. Things went horribly wrong. All these people coming back. Sign your life away. Make sure you have a job, a guaranteed job for the future. There's too many people, not enough jobs. Or go into recall forever. So there's kind of this underground out from suffering from the current state of society.
What if Fritz was like the way that context is kind of layered in there, and it probably can't be super specific in the context of the movie, but like, what if Fritz was one of the people that set, that bombs that fucked up the buildings and killed a lot of people?
Oh,
Like,
nice.
and he has actually total recalled his head to forget about that shit.
Oh,
And Dr. Broner uses that against him as like, oh, you're trying to be this like save the people, like being a man of the people, rescue all these people. Like, you think you're better than us? Well, like, here, we got evidence of you doing this. Like, I bet you thought you fucking could erase that shit,
Oh,
motherfucker,
and
but you can't.
it could be like a chemical thing, and or so like uh he did it was like a God, what's the um like chemical warfare type, and it's actually what is affecting his sister, so he's responsible for it, but he has
Uh,
erased that from his mind, and that's why he like goes out of his way to do all this stuff. And the reveal is you're doing all of this because you're guilty and you've erased your guilt.
nice. That's an excellent callback to Quaid's position in the original movie. Wow. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
I like how this movie's coming together though.
Yeah, this sounds like I want to watch this sequel to Total.
Yeah, and then like a lot, like, we've got a lot of the structure in there. Like most of it, like I said, like I want, like, at least while we're in that spaceship and the scenes there, maybe not like if we're doing Kuatu stuff and some flashbacks, intersplice it with some flashbacks of him on Saturn. But like I want it to be like, what was I can't remember what the first movie. It was like Raid, where they're like fighting in like a project or something. It's like
Yeah,
some
yeah,
foreign
yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah. Where it's Raid Redemption. I don't know if that's a sequel
Might be.
or,
I don't know, but
but
like
yeah,
more specifically, like Dread, the good, like the most recent
the
Carl
Raid. Yeah,
Urban
it's
one.
called the Raid Redemption. It's a apartment complex where it's basically like a video game, and he's fighting up a tower.
Yeah, yeah. Like I like to think that like the medical bays are the back of the ship, and he has to go to the bridge, and it's like Dread, where he's like working his way up to the top to get what's her name, mommy, whoever Cersei's, whoever the fuck that actress plays. But like it's like also like it's like an alien spaceship like setting. Like it's like I don't know, all this futuristic shit, and yeah, I mean, you're on a science research vessel in space. Like there's so many things you could do with various rooms. Like the only thing I thought of was like the mech suit, but there's like, I don't know, like I
Well, it
like
could
a
be
lot of allusions to other sci-fi stuff as well.
if he is like an indentured worker, his like verification or ID, whatever, as soon as he swipes it multiple times, then there's like the guards start coming for him, and then he takes theirs, and then from that point on, it's just like the technology is tracking him and throwing different things at him, and we can kind of see the waves of defense that this station kind of has.
Yeah, and I didn't describe, but like at least for most of the movie, like maybe forget about all the other, like I mentioned briefly, like he revives all the other people. Like maybe he doesn't because they're all gonna be vegetative suit too, because that doesn't make much sense. But like he's pushing around Arnold Schwarzenegger, who he might he needs some other reason to be carrying him with him instead of like just on this path to assist him to help stuff. Like I want them to kind of have like an antagonistic relationship at start and then get like each other. So like for some reason, like Douglas Quaid has to go with him. Like, and he has to carry him, and I don't know what that is, but I want there to be like a less loving like lone wolf and cub relationship where he's like looking after this old decrepit man who like is pretty useless except for the reason why he's bringing him along until he can get like this fucking mech suit, or not even mech suit, but like an exoskeleton where he can actually start doing shit and being
So
badass Arnold Schwarzenegger
so
again.
it could be something as easy as like um he's got like a passcode in his mind, and that's why they're replaying him over and over and over and trying to data mine it is they're trying to get this like password that is like encrypted in his mind. So he just needs to like brain plug himself up to the big computer at the end. I don't know. And that's why he needs to take him, because it's not even something that Doug Quaid knows. It's something that um, has been like so ingrained into um, his brain that's like it's not even a memory.
Maybe not a passcode, but maybe because he was interconnected with this like ship's computer, he somehow like maybe an error occurred like as well when like they tripped those wires, and like he has like a lot of knowledge from the computer, so he
Ooh,
knows
how
like
about an error occurred when he tripped the wires,
yeah.
he plugged him in backwards. Like there's multiple things. He switched them, and so Arnold Schwarzenegger now like got data from the computer, and so he is like a being that can kind of control some of the stuff too. And basically, they have to go up and is that too much?
Well,
Because
I had a real stupid idea. Like, what if he becomes like the spaceship, like a mind,
yeah,
like Arnold,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Like
but
he
like
gets
not
plugged
like
in, and
but,
yeah,
yeah, but like it's not his body; it's just his voice, like guiding Fritz through the station. That's too dumb. I want a physical old
no.
Arnold
Like I was gonna
Schwarzenegger.
say, he's physically bringing with him because Arnold Schwarzenegger can like hack in and see like there's three guards, and then the door opens. Sure enough, three guards, and he's like giving them intel because he is the computer system.
Well, let's say we're in the future. We're even past the future with Total Recall. Like there's let's say there's like a lot of like cybernetic interfacing where like he was linked into this computer system, but like every human on the spaceship has like a link to their skull for just like uploading information or like recording like diary, whatever. Like there's a lot of cybernetic implants, so maybe like he can hack like he, because of that error with the computer, he has a special way of like he's got like a fire, he can break through the firewall of
I
like
got
these
it.
security systems.
We have to basically like the reveal is the computer was data mining me, but I've been data mining the computer. And then like he opens the door that can't be unlocked. Like basically Arnold Schwarzenegger has been plugged in, and because of that plug it's not a one-way stream, it's a two-way stream, and he's been picking up stuff from the computer system and basically just archiving it in his own brain. And Doug Quaid is actually an international space spy, and so he is able to do all this stuff.
Yeah, well,
No, is that super dumb?
that's a little much. But
Oh, no.
I still I like like taking a step back a bit and like one, I like the idea that something happened with him in the computer where like a lot of the computers uploading with him. There's a Star Trek episode, I believe in Next Generation, where like someone gets the I think it's Barkley gets the intelligence. You can, I don't think either of you guys have seen Star Trek, but he gets like the intelligence of the computer in his head, but it's like or something is giving him like immense intelligence, but it's also killing him. And so maybe he is racing to maybe he all right, maybe his goal to get to the end of the ship is to either like get Dr. Browner to force himself to get this computer out of his head, like because that's the only person who they think can help him. But in reality, Quaid knows that like he is going to die, and he didn't do that to get Dr. Bronner. He just wanted to access the bridge, whereas the only place to get communication, because it's like a slave research ship, and like only the top dogs can communicate with the planet. Where he tries to get the communication array, and he just wants to tell Lori he loves her and the truth, and like that he's not dead, that he actually lives, and then he in the end
Where
he
he's trying to
dies.
broadcast all this information that is the truth.
Yeah, the
Uh,
truth along
and like
with
the other guy doesn't necessarily care about that. Like he doesn't care about that. It is much more like he doesn't want to get caught, and his sister.
yeah. I like this. Storm, are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
here. I've
I'm
just
just
been
being cat.
laying back, listening and absorbing for like 10 minutes, and I love all of this. And I there's only one stupid thing that I would contribute, and that is that wheelchair bound Quaid, old Arnold Schwarzenegger, is given by Fritz some sort of weapon that he can use while they're moving forward in the ship to kill people in gratuitous action.
I also feel like it shouldn't be a wheelchair. I feel like it should I have two things in my head of like it's either um like Han Solo frozen in carbonite, just straight up and down. He's on like a platform, just
I
his
thought
whole
about that.
body being moved, or laying down like a hospital bed, but it's still like a levitating bed. And so he's like laying down and he can't really do anything, or he is. I think if he is like not standing, but straight up and down like a normal person on this levitating like platform that's pushing him, it creates the opportunity to like spin it around and use him for cover and just do some real stupid things like push him into people.
I like it starting from something like that, but then like it breaks, so then they have to like rig
Yeah, and then
something again.
eventually it breaks, or it's like it's not going to fit through a door or something. I do think a good scene in this would be like it breaks, and so uh is his name Fitz or Fritz?
Fritz. I might have called him
Fritz.
Fitz.
Fritz has to like carry Arnold Schwarzenegger on his back for a leg of
Oh my
this.
god.
Uh or like he props him up in a corner or something. Um
I definitely want Quaid sacrificing himself for the better good, whether it's to save Fritz, whether it's to tell Lori he loves her and then share this illegal information that's happening with this. Well, I mean, it's technically not illegal, but this unethical information that's happening with Total Recall. Maybe like wants to do like maybe the idea is like maybe Fritz and Quaid are just like, man, like what's the point of doing this? It's not even like it's illegal. They're in space. They can do whatever they want. Like, it's space law, bros. Fuck if they're gonna get away with it. It's like, no, there's a law of the markets. The people will not buy recall products if I don't know if they know about this stuff that they're minding about.
so so I have a question, I guess. In yours, is the company recall like defunct, or are they still
No,
like the power?
they're not just a memory replacement company. Like that's just like a
Okay.
part of like an entertainment sector. Like recall could be like the last name of something. It's kind of like Google or Apple. Like
Okay.
it's
That
it's
I was
it
saying that I agree that they should definitely be this like evil corporation that is data mining people um to then use however.
that concept was inspired by current events where I just realized or learned that Robin Hood, um, hold the line with GME baby, Robin Hood, Robin Hood. That's how they make money. Is they sell your information on buying and trading to places like Melvin Capital, and
Yeah.
like that's kind of fucked up. They actually
Yep.
got sued a few years ago, and no one knew about it. You're not sued, but like fined by the government because they're misleading advertising about how they made their money.
Was it? I think Citron is the name of the hedge fund that Robinhood pays up to. But yeah, it's the reason that if you use that platform for anything,
Well,
given current events, there's no like advertising or it's very streamlined. It's like, um, and that's exactly why, because your buying and selling, your trading information is being data mined and sold directly to the people who are benefiting from that.
which is why it looks super sketchy when Robinhood makes you not buy GME stocks. Um, if you're listening to this years from now, just search up Wall
Search
Street
up
Bets, GME,
GameStop.
GameStop.
Yeah, I'm assuming anyone listening to this or my cohorts on this are have those diamond hands or holding steady, as they say.
We're going to the moon, boys.
All right. So how what are we all playing this towards? Like what is our big finale then?
Clearly, some sort of bridge fight um, with the main, maybe not the main. How about the two characters split off? We have Fritz and Arnold. Arnold goes off on his own. Maybe he's in his mech suit, maybe he's not, maybe he found something else. But he takes on Dr. Bruner or Browner, however you want to say. It doesn't matter. I just made up the name. And then Fritz fights the head, the main thug. So it's like an A and B fight line, and they both have their tense moments, and it leads up to Arnold messaging Lori, telling her that he loves her, while simultaneously um, sharing all this data that was mined and the unethical processes that Total Recall is doing that to both Mars and Earth. Mars, which does not have an atmosphere because the whole first movie never happened.
So how about this for Arnold's the sacrifice scene, and I think Arnold's end. So he's in the mech suit. God, we love mech suits in this show. If you've not listened, go back and listen to the Grinch episode where I feel like we have a better mech suit kind of situation. But anyway,
exoskeleton. It could be an exoskeleton.
Yeah. Fritz is fighting the like genetically engineered Michael Ironside, and is actually like losing the fight. And exoskeleton Arnold comes running, tackles him off the bridge, which is actually like, God, no, because then the entire thing would open up. I don't know. I'm gonna have it happen. So they like free fall off this bridge through like this glass of the ship out into space, and Arnold sacrifices himself to kill this kind of big bad, and move Fritz along to the final kind of meeting. And as Arnold is floating in space, out where he is able to send off communication, he like sends a message before he like freezes in the vacuum of space off to Lori, and then he dies. That's like his dying thing.
Yes, but instead of freezing, the way he dies is exactly like his face does.
Yes, it's got to be that. Like I looked it up while you were talking to see if that happened, and it wouldn't, because you freeze way before it. But like that's got to happen, right?
Yeah, let's just have that happen. He's like, his eye gets super big and his face explodes.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So there's definitely a solid follow up to Total Recall in there.
I'm not sure if it's good, but
I think it's good. I
like it.
I was pretty blown away by what was developed just now. I was kind of just riding along.
I mean, it's nothing new or groundbreaking, but it'd be a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, I could see it happening. Very curious who you have cast as Fritz.
Yeah, let's get into casting. So I straight up recast the movie, but I think my Quaid can be a Fritz. I don't necessarily know that Melina or Lori are going to make their way into this, or my Richter character definitely can.
I didn't cast Fritz's sister.
I think one of mine would work for that. The other one I don't necessarily think would. Let's go ahead and start. If are we good? We're keeping Arnold Schwarzenegger as Quaid.
Oh yeah.
And then so I guess the Fritz would then be the younger action star. So who did you guys have either as Quaid, if we were doing more of a like reboot, or as the young guy?
Yeah, I had, so in my pitch his name was Duke, but it definitely is the same role of the young hero. So it translates, moves right over into Fritz. I had Jason Momoa, but there's another guy for sure that is the guy, and it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
No, I fought him. I fought putting him so hard. I was like, God, it's definitely him. But I was like, no, I'm not gonna put The Rock in this movie, because I did. So I, with Quaid, had a list of 3 people, which became 4, and then I trimmed it down to just 1. Jason Momoa was on my list for Quaid, and then I was like, I don't know. My final guy that I went with, though, was Henry Cavill, who plays Superman.
Yeah.
I think he just he would be a better Quaid, probably.
He's a better actor.
But yeah,
Yeah, I also had two that as of right now I'm still debating with, but like I was gonna have either of these guys. One of these guys could be the main henchman, and one of them could be Fritz. I think they're interchangeable. So like my focus was like not someone that was Quaid like, but more of like real grizzled. And like one of my favorite actors for that would be like John Bernthal, like
Nice.
okay.
or Tom Hardy.
Tom
Like
Hardy, I could see that for sure. Even doing some of the same insane Quaid like facial things where they use like the prosthetics, or I'm sorry, like the puppetry.
oh yeah,
Yeah, Tom Hardy. That's awesome. I didn't think about that at all. I guess I was thinking of more of a cheesy approach with Jason Momoa, but I like Tom
I
Hardy a lot.
Jason Momoa would be good because he's not the. I mean, I like him in certain movies and shows,
Hmm.
but he's not the greatest actor. But he's like a
No.
big action guy, which is really fits the Arnold
Yeah.
like role super well. So I like that for like especially like a new Quaid. But I guess the way I envisioned Fritz wasn't like a new Quaid. It was more of like a more veteran like
I
scarred
like
vet
I
type
like
person.
John Barenthal more than Tom Hardy in this.
Right
I
on.
like that.
I think he would definitely play more off as like angry at Arnold Schwarzenegger the entire time. I don't know. He just seems like a meaner person than Tom Hardy.
I
So,
can see
so
it. I'm
like,
curious. This is derailing a little bit. Have they ever been in a film together? Because they
That's
kind
a
of are
good
the
question.
same type of guy.
Yeah,
So
they definitely are the same type of
yeah,
guy.
I'd be surprised if they were, but I want to see that movie if it exists.
Well, we could cast Tom Hardy as the henchman. No, no.
That'd be cool. I mean, he's usually a leading man. A lot of times with someone like that, you get a very interesting, weird, crazy approach. I'm thinking like Robert De Niro and like Jackie Brown or something like that, where when you get cast in a lesser role, you bring the leading man character performance to the lesser role. So John Bernthal as Fritz, and then Tom Hardy as the henchman.
But
I'd be all about
what
that.
if we have like a squad of henchmen that he fights,
Okay.
but there's like a head henchman, so we can use a lot of these characters. I mean, let's just pretend we can get all these fucking superstars, like Henry Cavill and like Jason
yeah,
Momoa, like you know. I'd love for them to be like play. I mean, Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill. It's hard to get them to play bad guys, though.
I think
Yeah.
Jason Momoa would be a very good like. It's almost like an action trope where he's like the big guy that looks really tough, and
The
then it's
big
just
dumb
like
guy.
wiped out super fast.
Yeah, with the Indiana Jones like dude with the sword.
Yeah, yeah. So let's. I cast Richter, Michael Ironside's character, um, but I feel like we're probably gonna do a Tom Hardy in that role.
Oh,
Um,
we could do. I forgot about Michael Ironside with the robot arms.
Yeah,
uh,
I'm very
Fuck,
curious as to who you've got as a recast of that.
I cast Billy Zane.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Billy
Does he
Zane.
not give up? The guy from Titanic,
Yeah, modern Billy
um,
Zane
but
for
he's like
sure.
bald now.
Oh,
He,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Whew.
was super proud of that one because
That's
I feel
good.
like he has the same like energy of just being like the worst person in the world.
Billy Zane. Oh man,
Yeah.
I
And
love
like
that.
he is attainable too. Like he is not we're not gonna sorry if you're listening, Billy, but yeah, we're not gonna break the bank bringing him in.
or
Nice.
we could have Vincent D'Onofrio who plays Michael Ironside's brother. Sorry, that's a stretch, but I think he's almost as old as Michael Ironside, so it would be kind of stupid to recast him.
Is that the guy from Law and Order?
He played
Is
Private
he the
Pile in Full Metal
okay.
Jacket
My
and
next thing was
Daredevil. He played
The
what's his name,
Kingpin.
Kingpin.
my identifying role for him is the guy who's like a bug in Men in Black.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like you can't tell it's him at all. So yeah. Okay. I I recast Benny, which like we're obviously not going to do. I think that this person could definitely come in as like an evil scientist, though. But for Benny, the guy who's the cab driver, like
Yeah.
the fast talking cab driver who has 5 kids to feed, I cast Donald Glover.
that makes
I've
sense.
got 5
Uh,
kids to feed.
but I would like to see Donald Glover as like he's actually the head of this entire thing.
Yeah.
Maybe like running the whole show, technology wise.
Yeah, I could see a similar performance, even like Donald Glover coming in with that. Benny's a very particular character. I was curious if that's who you were getting at there, because if I were to recast this movie, like the original Total Recall, that's who I would have picked for Benny. Um, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like some sort of combination between like his performance. I feel like in like The Martian and then like Lando Calrissian mixed together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. So, who were we deciding for like the main bad hench person? Like, are we doing a Michael Ironside? Like, I'm down for
I like
whatever.
that Billy
So
Zane as Michael Ironside. That is
I like
hilarious.
Billy Zane with robot arms.
But like that is like a young Michael Irons. That's
I don't know, dude. He's up
He's
there
not.
now. He's just
No, he's probably pretty close to.
yeah, where he would have been in the original one. So maybe he's more robot than man. He didn't age.
He's
man,
54 now.
dude. Just googling Michael Ironside and
Michael
thinking of
Ironside is 70, so he was probably around 50 when this movie came out. He was like 40. Jesus, he was 40 when this movie came out, but he looked like he was 54.
I think it works. I love it. Billy Zane as Richter, but a robot version.
Robot Richter.
wait that that doesn't make any sense in the context of
Because Richter's not real. It's part of an illusion. Like it's part of his
yeah
dream. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it doesn't have to. When we just have Billy Zane with robot arms, and then if people think it's Richter, it goes into what's reality and what's not.
So just whoever's the head henchman, he has robotic like cannon arms,
Yeah.
and we don't mention it. Yeah,
No, there's not a.
that's
We don't have to give a
hilarious.
reason behind it, and we just cast Billy Zane because he kind of looks like Michael Ironside.
All right, in a perfect world, I think I prefer Tom Hardy, but given all the context and the connection, I like Billy Zane.
I also think Tom Hardy could be like something, uh, but I don't
he,
know what.
he could be Chaz the orderly that who
Just a weird cameo.
doesn't make any fucking sense.
So who did you cast for his sister? Or you said you didn't cast anyone for his sister.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about her because honestly, I had her in the beginning, but I didn't really think about her throughout the film until I started talking about it today. So
So I cast Melina and Lori in mine. One of them I don't think works, and one of them I think could work for the sister. For Melina, I cast Priyanka Chopra, who I don't know like how you would know her. She's Nick Jonas's wife, but she's an actress who's in like a lot of she is like the Indian actress that's in everything. And then the one that I think would actually work for the sister is Lauren Cohen, who's in like The Walking Dead.
Damn,
let's
I
see.
have no. I'm out of the loop with these people.
Yeah, I'm
But
googling them. Yeah, I'm fine with the Lauren Cohen.
She just seems like I don't know. I don't really know what the sister role is. Like we did not put anything to that other
You
than like
just need like a
um,
thankful
yeah.
sister who's nice, who is the only thing that like I know you're sweet at heart, John Barenthal or Bernthal, however you say your name.
Yep. God, we really I came into this thinking I did a great job of casting this movie, and our casting of this movie that we actually made is all over the place, and I'm not sure I like anybody in the like it'll be interesting.
So this is pretty weird. I was just trying to find some frame of reference for Lauren Cohen. I'm pretty sure she played Martha Wayne in Batman versus Superman in the flashbacks, the kind of the emotional crux of that. So that's hilarious for me, and definitely confirms that the casting is all over the goddamn place. But I love it. I don't know this kind of really does feel like a, a good spiritual successor to the heart of the original movie.
Oh yeah, gotta have. What if wheelchair bound and or hoverboard bound or whatever Arnold travels in? He comes into like a room in the spaceship dressed like a woman again.
Not...
That's
but
gotta be
again,
one of the gags. It's
that
just
was
like one of the things is there's a bunch of guards and it's just like it's a woman and it's like, oh, I'm lost. Can you help me? I got this ship's so big, and then like his head comes up or something, and that's like I don't know.
it's another one of those things where the throwback is within the context of the story. It is a reference to something that is actually pretend and part of a simulation. So it's, if you think too hard about it, it's
No,
like, this is
but
ridiculous.
it would be his idea
Okay.
that worked in his simulation.
So
Yeah.
he
So
executes it in
he's
real
doing
life.
it. He's like,
Yeah.
I know something that's always works.
All right, that's awesome. Do you guys have any name ideas aside from like Total Recall 2?
Totally recalled.
That's what I was thinking.
Totally recalled.
Yeah,
Recalled.
That movie
totally.
has Keanu Reeves. Totally Recalled stars Keanu Reeves.
yeah.
Like I don't know how, but like
Totally Recall.
Sure. So dumb. I'll go with it.
Totally Recalled, and it's just a poster of robot Billy Zane shooting rockets out of his arms. So people are like, "What?" I think it's a Total Recall sequel, but I'm really not sure.
I dig it. I like it. I would see it.
Is Totally Recalled the name we're just
Yeah,
gonna
Let's go with
accept?
it. Yeah, that's
Like
hilarious.
we've become that broken on this that we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Hell
It sounds
yeah.
stupid.
Totally
Love it.
Recalled. Oh man.
All right, well, Totally Recalled. Please make this movie.
Yeah, please make this movie.
Please make this movie.